When the leaves turn autumn colors like they have here, it's a reminder of all the shade they bring. Cattle like shade too, especially in the hot months. Farmers who are trying to keep their livestock happy are turning to a technique that's literally made in the shade.
It's called silvopasture, a mix of the Latin word silva, meaning forest, and pastura, meaning grazing. A silvopasture is the deliberate integration of trees and grass to provide an ideal environment for cattle grazing.
If livestock don't have access to shade, which has historically been down by the streams or the pond in the riparian areas on the farms, then it can get pretty hot and intensive, and they tend not to want to graze, and it just decreases production and animal comfort.
Daniel works with farmers and other landowners who are interested in developing a silvopasture field, like this one in Charlotte County. It's part of Clark Poindexter's land, which he developed 11 years ago to be used for silvopasture. And as Poindexter notes, it was time to do some tree maintenance anyway.
It was going to be thinned, so rather than thinning in a traditional way, we decided to thin utilizing corridors and planting grass between the corridors for the cattle to graze.
Poindexter developed this silvopasture field in the traditional way by thinning out existing trees to create the rows for the cattle. It's popular when a forest area is ready for its first commercial thinning, but it can also be developed the other way by planting trees in an existing pasture.
We can plant trees in specific rows. It won't be random across the pasture, but it'll be a row and alley layout so that over the period of 4 to 5 years, as those trees grow and establish and get big enough to withstand livestock impact, then maybe the farmers can raise hay or make hay in those alleys until those trees are big enough to withstand livestock impact.
Loblolly pine trees, which are abundant in Virginia, are good for growing a silvopasture field from the ground up. They tend to grow quickly and straight up. Anyone considering a silvopasture field also needs to know how wide to make their rows.
Well, we chose about 50 feet. That's kind of easy to maintain. Works well with the sprayer and the fertilizers. Drop down a litter spreader. All those things were taken into consideration when choosing that width.
A silvopasture field has to provide enough shade to cool off livestock. It also needs the trees to be far enough apart to allow enough sunlight for the grass to grow. Like all living things when it gets hot, trees want some form of water. When the ground is saturated with trees, they take most of the moisture away from the grasslands, leaving them dry, brittle, and unappetizing to cows.
An important distinction is silvopasture is not forest grazing. Okay, it's very different. We're going to manage the land unit so that we can get enough sunlight to the surface. We can actually establish and grow grasses and legumes just like in a pasture, but there's enough light to sustain them.
This field is at the Southern Piedmont Agricultural Research and Extension Center, run by Virginia Tech. Daniel says it was thinned 9 years ago, and now there's more growth of the leaves and branches at the top, providing more shade than there was before it was thinned. Silvopasture can be a great technique for getting dual use from the same piece of land, but it's not a set-and-forget operation. The grassland and the trees themselves must be maintained, and even if cattle are put under the trees during the summer, they will overgraze and could kill off the grass. So livestock need to be rotated on and off certain parcels of land, just like everywhere else.
If there are any landowners who are interested in learning more about silvopasture and maybe establishing some on their own farm, they should go by the local USDA Service Center. That's United States Department of Agriculture Service Center. They're in most localities across the state. And just let their local district conservationists know that they're interested in maybe implementing or establishing some silvopasture. That district conservationist will then contact me.
Silvopasture can be a win-win for the cattle. They get to eat the grass, and when it's hot out, they can cool off in the shade from the trees. And happy, well-fed cattle end up working out for the farmer as well. In Charlotte County, Virginia, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.